Hi there. Welcome to The PrevenTable, the podcast giving you a seat at the table with conversations about the intersection of alcohol, drugs, and mental health in everyday lives. Take a seat and join us.
Welcome to The PrevenTable. As always, none of this would be possible without our amazing sponsors, the folks at Hubbard Radio. They allow us to have this studio space. They've been so kind, just giving of resources and energy and even sharing some on-air radio personalities with us, which has just been incredible. And we appreciate the people who listen week after week. I can't believe we're in season 4. It's pretty incredible. And with me today is a really special guest. I jokingly refer to her as a NCADA Prevent+Ed superfan because you're at all of our stuff, and I love that. With me today is Angela Roberts. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So I asked you if you wanted to be on, and you were like, sure. And then I said, what do we want to talk about? And you're like, I don't know. Let's talk about it all. So
yeah, absolutely.
So
open book.
Yeah, open book. So first and foremost, you, I feel like, really are one of those people, those faces, those names that are sort of at every event, every networking, connecting, lunch and learn opportunity for the recovery and treatment field. Mm-hmm. Is that pretty much just like been your job forever? Is just to like know the things that are happening so you can link the people to the places and the programs?
Yeah. I mean, I really did start in the substance use field about 15 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long.
You started when you were 12, obviously.
I started when Prevent+Ed was NCADA. Yeah. In a little tiny conference room that with brown old chairs. And that was all that was great then. But it's even better now, thanks to you.
Thank you.
And I definitely feel like it's come so far, just from where you guys are at.
And so about 2 years ago, I guess, you, and correct me if I'm wrong on timing, but you sort of took a departure from substance use and you went into eating disorders, which are related, right? Because they're both mental health. And I'm assuming you were able to keep up with several of the same relationships then because hospitals are referring or you're trying to maintain those open lines of communication and warm handoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was actually hired at Montanito Affiliates about a few years ago now. To help open their adolescent program in St. Louis called Clementine St. Louis. Shout out to Montanito. And, you know, it was a great experience. I had prior experience with helping open different facilities and things like that and locations. So,
which I would imagine your previous training in commercial real estate or like that led you to this, right? Yeah. There's a lot of similarities.
There's a lot of similarities.
The business is different.
Sure.
But it's the same skills and talents and competencies, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was, you know, it was good to be able to, it really opened my eyes a lot more to eating disorders in general and how they truly not only affect the individual, but affect the family, but also how much stigma is there still.
Absolutely.
With so much mental health concerns, eating disorders in general. So now I feel like I'm an eating disorder advocate now back in the treatment world, you know, so now I'm looking for things that maybe I wouldn't have looked for before. Like, what is our eating, what does our eating disorder protocol look like? Do we do blind weights? You know, just different things, different talk tracks that you really learn to see how you can integrate it into your own programming so that you can really treat the entire individual and not just one portion of it. So.
And I mean, I could be wrong, but there is a link between substance use and eating disorders, right? I mean, and some of the links are everything from their ways to cope or to control something when everything else is sort of out of control. You can control your eating or you can control, you know, what you're putting in your body or what you're not putting in your body. A lot of people who, this could be a generalization, but maybe it's not. Like a lot of young women will have calorie deficits in nutrition because they're saving their calories for drinking, right?
Yeah.
And so could you talk a little bit about the relationship between those? I didn't ask you to prepare stats or anything.
You're fine. You're fine.
But am I right or am I like...
No, you're right. I mean, I can talk about eating disorders from my own personal experience. I never technically had an eating disorder per se.
Is that a diagnose? Like, is that in a DSM or something?
Yeah. So
okay.
I know that here's what I know. I know that a lot of women and men that are new in recovery, we all try to find different ways to cope other than drugs or alcohol.
Sure.
One of those happens to be food, right? And so you have, rapid weight gain when you get sober. If you're not taking care of yourself or eating the wrong things. And sometimes we realize that stuff, it gets away from us and we don't really realize we're doing it when we're doing it. And then it catches up with you and you realize,
whoa,
what just happened to me? Like I'm looking in the mirror and I'm not even the person who I thought I was. And so I do feel like that, kind of more of a binge eating disorder is more prevalent in women specifically in recovery that maybe had a drug of choice as an upper, if you will, like a meth addiction or Adderall, which was one of my drugs of choices.
Cocaine, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I do feel like that definitely is something that's not as talked about in the recovery community, just because I feel like it's like, oh, it's food, it's normal, like it's just part of life. We're American, we eat, and that's what we do.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody yesterday, actually, whose kiddo has been in recovery since they were like in their late teens, and pills, opioids were their kind of drug of choice. And when they stopped using, they put on a ton of weight. And then so now they're trying to manage that and all the body image issues that come with that. And how do you feel good about yourself on top of the fact that maybe your dopamine levels aren't where they were before and you're already sort of questioning who you are and maybe things you did when you were under the influence of substances. And it's just it is a recipe for a mental health crisis.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think on the other spectrum is what I'm noticing now more than ever, especially I have some friends that have younger kids. My kids are a little older. My daughter is 16 and my son is 22. But a lot with younger kids, and one thing I noticed when I was in the eating disorder world is ages typically from, 8, that young age, 8 to about 14 or 15, you see a lot of what they call ARFID eating disorders, which is like an avoidant restrictive disorder, right?
Like more of like anorexia.
Well, a little bit, but they're really what they're doing is they're only eating certain things.
Oh, so, interesting. Okay.
Fries, chicken nuggets.
Right.
They'll only eat those things. And you have a lot of kids now that are going to school, in high school specifically, that are choosing to not eat lunch at school because they don't want to be looked at while they eat.
Oh,
they
interesting.
Don't. It's just a very different dynamic these days in the school setting, you know. So, it comes in all different shapes or form, both male and female. Yeah. And then you have, exercise addiction and all those things that go into an eating disorder. Especially in boys and men, too. You get those exercise addictions, but you also get into anorexia and all kinds of things, which is there's even a more stigma with that, right?
Absolutely.
And so really having more resources for boys and men, I think, is always great. But really, anybody in general, I think right now, I was actually just thinking about this the other day. I'm like, I wonder what resources we have here for any staff that might struggle with an eating disorder.
Great question.
Within
I was
the
just
substance use field.
Thinking in my brain, yes.
Yeah, because you just never know.
Right. And
you don't know.
I think that food is such an important part of wellness. And I will tell you, I mean, it's sort of become a joke around work, like that I don't eat during the day. I'm not I'm not a petite person. So if I'm not eating during the day, like then where is that coming from? And the joke around work is that I don't eat because I'm stressed and because I don't have time to eat, because of whatever. That's not good behavior that I'm modeling, right? And it's such a huge part of wellness, like not just in the recovery field, but when we're thinking about physical health, we're thinking about spiritual health, like a dimension of wellness, you know, financial health. Like it's also the food we're putting in our bodies, the fuel, the like, how are we taking care of it? Particularly if we haven't been taking the best care of it for the last however many years. And I know that I'm really not a good role model. So I'm thinking to myself as you're talking, like, I wonder what resources our EAP has like around disordered eating, because I know that we have several staff who, as soon as they get stressed, you just see, you see the weight just as like coming off, or the exact opposite, right? And we're in the substance use field. We talk about shame and stigma and coping and getting help all the time. And it's really not something that we talk about at PrevenTed.
It's
not
easy
openly.
To hide. It's easy to hide in the substance use world, for sure.
And when we do, it's like a joke. Like, oh, you just eat chicken fingers all day. I mean, we have staff who literally that's what they eat. We joke about it. And I'm sitting here thinking like, that's not really something we should be joking about.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so I think what I was arriving at is that really it just being in the eating disorder world really opened my eyes a lot to the different things that I never really realized, right?
Yeah.
So now having that experience and going back into the treatment world.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So welcome back, your re-debut, so to speak. Where are you? What's going on? Tell us everything.
So I am at Sauna Lake Recovery now as their new director of business development.
You know, I'm trying not to be mad at you, okay? Because I don't know if you know this, but we used to do our teen leadership camp at the location that is now Sauna Lake.
Really?
Yes,
I did not know that.
4 years. And we found out one year with not that much time to spare that the property was being purchased by a treatment center. And we were like, what? Who? When? How? Like, and then obviously I joke, we don't really have, you know, anything. We don't hold a grudge against Sauna Lake. But man, we've really struggled to find a location for that camp because it's such a beautiful location. It's idyllic. It's in Dittmer, and it feels like it's a million miles away.
How many kids do you guys have that?
We used to have, in its heyday, we had almost 100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they would love the paddle boats and the basketball courts and all that. I mean, it makes perfect sense.
Sure.
It's a perfect place when you need to get away from the world and you need to focus on yourself. That's a great place to go.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a great place
to go. But I am
kind
of mad at you all still because it was a perfect location.
Yeah. It is definitely a perfect location. I mean, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump, though, right from St. Louis.
That's right.
I mean,
it's not
only,
far.
You know, 20 minutes from some areas, an hour from others, but I think close enough to be able to make it.
Totally. And for your friends and family to visit when you have those opportunities.
Sure.
I have several friends and family who have attended Sauna Lake. Some might even be there right now. We refer a lot to Sauna Lake. Our counselors do a lot of referrals to you all. Could you talk a little, I know this isn't a Sauna Lake commercial, but you're here. So let's talk about it. What are the things that make Sauna Lake unique? Because I think one of the things, and you know this to be true, is that if you're trying to find a place for your loved one, or that you feel comfortable going, if you're of, you know, sound mind to be able to decide on your own, there are certain things you're kind of looking for, right, to make it stick. So what are the things that Sauna Lake does really well or are known for? Yeah,
so I think a lot of different things, but some of the main things, the first thing is we really focus on healing the entire family, right? And so by doing that, we offer all levels of care. I've been in the substance use world long enough to know that most alumni programs aren't that robust, or maybe you don't have the resources to have that. But we actually have what's called our Members for Life program at Sauna Lake for our members. We call them members, not clients or patients. And that's just because you really are a member for life when you come to Sauna Lake, your family, you know, and that is the whole purpose around that. So we offer all levels of care, including detox, residential, a PHP, IOP.
PHP is
in housing, partial hospitalization.
Okay.
So really it's just another word for, you get the housing component.
Got it.
If that is something that you choose to do.
And IOP is?
Inpatient, intensive outpatient.
So that means you don't have to go and stay.
Yeah, you don't have to stay. So we have our location.
Which is a misconception people have,
Absolutely.
right? Like, I got to check myself into rehab and I got to be away from the world for 28 days or whatever.
So you have our location in Dittmer, Missouri, which, like I said, it's just a hop, skip, and a jump down south. And that's where we have our detox and residential program. And then we also have our outpatient program in Maryland Heights. We're actually having a community partner meet and greet on June 20th.
Well, okay.
From 11 to 1, so please join us.
Love it.
Okay. And we're just really excited about the different levels of care that we provide. Our outpatient services, what I find unique about what we do med management. You don't have to be in an outpatient program at Sauna Lake to have just psychiatric nurse practitioner and med management. But also a lot of the people that work at Sauna Lake have been doing this for years on end.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people that I used to work with at Bridgeway are at Sauna Lake.
I have noticed that, yes.
And so that has just been so fun to kind of, I feel like, be back home, if you will. And just the clinical care is unmatched, because you have a lot of these experienced clinicians that have been doing this for years, and people that have worked together for years. And you have a finesse about that. When you work together for a long period of time, you just have a way of making it work, right? And knowing how each other work and operate and all of those things. And really combining that experience together is just, I feel like, one big, it's just a great continuum of care for all of those individuals. Our Members for Life program actually has every Saturday, they have an event in person in the St. Louis area.
Wow.
That
we should do a Sands bar for you all sometime.
We would love that. Absolutely.
Yeah,
so I want to shout out Chris Lane. Chris Lane is the head of our Members for Life program, or actually Cassie Solons is kind of, our director over that program. They do an amazing job. We also have a housing component at Sauna Lake as well that she's over. But Chris Lane has been really kind of the spearhead for the Members for Life program for a while. We actually have a new person joining us for that team, and Chris will be coming over with me to the business development team on Monday. So we are just so excited that we can kind of take that experience and really ingrain ourselves in everything the program is about. That Members for Life program really just gives more accountability for our members, but also that peer-to-peer support.
Yeah.
Just to kind of have that, like as a family, some people have burnt bridges with their family. Some people don't want to be around their family. Some people may not have family, So just for them to have something to do in person every Saturday, I think is amazing.
That's awesome.
And something just else to do other than go to a meeting,
Family seems to be, I hear you saying that a lot, right? Like you've talked about the family component and the shame and stigma that goes with eating disorders and substance use. You've talked about your own kiddos.
Yeah.
I feel like that component, the family piece, whether it's functional or dysfunctional, is like a huge centering point for you.
It is, yeah. We also have what we call our New Dawn program located in Creve Coeur. New Dawn is actually a wellness program, a counseling program for families. That was what the intention of it was, or for individuals to get individual one-on-one therapy in need of more support, either in their recovery, like maybe they've completed outpatient and now they just need more one-on-one counseling, so they can do that with us as well. But also, it was New Dawn is really a resource for our community for folks to get that one-on-one individual therapy with clinicians. Yeah.
You said something we've thrown this term around a couple of times, which is like business development. And I don't think I've shared this with you at the Archway Gala, but I want to just throw something out at you, and I want your like gut instinct as to what you think of when you hear this. So I was getting coffee and ran into Jordan Hampton, who everyone, knows and loves, and he's been on here before. And he was meeting with somebody. And so Jordan introduced me to him, and he goes, "Hey, I'm trying to get into the recovery industry." And I was like, "Cool." And he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "This is a tough industry to break into." And it just, what does that sound like to you? Like the recovery industry? What does that sound like to you?
I don't necessarily think that the recovery industry is tough to break into, but I do feel like that there is, a lot of the same people that have been doing.
Would you ever call it a recovery industry? Would you ever call it that? Does that
really,
sound weird to you?
I don't think I've ever called it a recovery industry. Maybe like if I'm talking to somebody else.
Yeah.
It just in a different industry, possibly, but I don't think that I would, really refer to it as that.
It like really like left a weird taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
And I don't think I really feel like he had very altruistic motives. I think he was really wanting to get into this field. I think we just so often talk about it as a field and not like a business or an industry because our widgets are people. And that just seems to me like weird.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I guess it really is a business.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. You're right about that, right? Like business development in the treatment industry, because we are dealing with people. Essentially what we do is we're the arm extension of community partners in the community, helping one addict at a time get well, and as we're out in the community building relationships with people and really taking a look at different processes when it comes to access to care. Of course, that's been an ongoing hot topic.
For sure.
In the industry.
Yes, right.
Ongoing hot topic. But, there's been a lot of really great things that have happened over the years and
a ton
in regards
of innovations,
to
a ton of partnerships. Yeah,
I know Behavioral Health Network has been really involved in making that happen, having different networking groups and different different care groups to kind of have specific, folks from different hospitals there to kind of come to the same table to figure out what can we do better when it comes to access to care, know, and I think, what that kind of evolved into is having, that urgent access behavioral health, right? And I know SSM did a great job with launching that program there on site at their hospital in Bridgeton. And so over the years, it's been an honor to kind of see some of these programs come to fruition and kind of see how people just kind of let those things evolve and solve those problems, and I was at American Addiction Centers for 4.5 years, and I received a promotion to regional manager. I managed a team, in this area and or actually in the Midwest. And 1 week later, after I was promoted, COVID happened. And so that was my first time being a manager, and it was my first time leading a team.
Welcome to the wonderful world of management.
And then COVID happened 1 week later. So while we had the heightened emotions that we all had when COVID happened we all thought we were going to die, basically.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Oh,
for sure.
And so you had we were all very emotional. First of all, we couldn't get out much, so that made us really super crazy, right? And then on top of that, you have hospitals now who maybe didn't want to call us before that were calling us saying, please help us get these patients out of here, and so working we got
to make room for
understandable,
other people, right?
Understandable,
right?
Completely,
right.
So really, it was figuring out how do we do this job and do it with grace in a way that we're acting as the continued community partner that we are, but also not exposing ourselves at the same time to COVID.
Absolutely.
And that was like,
keeping your team safe.
Yeah. Sure.
As they're interacting with folks, as they're experiencing things in their own life, as they're trying to raise their kindergartner who is being homeschooled because their school shut down, all of that.
Yeah.
I think that you're right. I mean, it it is a business. The business we are in, though, is saving lives.
Yeah.
We're not selling shoes. No. Nothing wrong with people who sell shoes.
Right.
We're not, making pasta. Nothing wrong with people. But our business is saving lives, getting people help, creating bridges to access to help people get where they need to be.
Yeah.
My business is prevention. It's whether we call it an industry or not, like this is what pays our bills.
Sure.
Like we are getting people help. And it is a business, and you are very good at it. You're a very good connector.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
I mean, names that you have dropped and the SSM does this and this. And that's the other thing that I think is really great, and I would like to applaud you for, is, and I think speaking of COVID, I think the field has come a very long way in recognizing that there's plenty of work to go around.
There's plenty. I mean,
right? There is plenty of work.
Yeah.
And we have to work together.
Yes.
Because there's more than enough.
And I really think, over the years, obviously a lot of lessons learned, on what to do, what not to do, how to interact, how not to interact, and different things like that, right? But the cool thing is what I've really learned at the end of the day, the more community partners that we have, the better, because we can help more people that way. And I really feel like that's the best approach. And I think the only way truly that you can be good at what you do is if you love what you do,
It's why I've been at the organization for 16 years.
Yeah.
If I didn't love it, you mentioned people. If I didn't love the people, I mean, sometimes you just want to shake them, but you love them and you have faith in them and you're proud of them and they're proud of you and you're doing what you all love. Like that is why we're in it. That's why you just can't get away from it.
Yeah, I know, right?
And why you wouldn't want to.
Yeah.
Could you imagine going back and selling commercial real estate?
Absolutely not.
Right. I mean, you would be like, this is for the birds. Like, I don't want to do that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you'd probably be a hell of a lot richer, but like...
I actually, at one point in time, this was years ago, I considered maybe, and I realized that through the recovery process, I'm just not even the same person I was then
You're
anymore.
Probably a totally different...
I mean, I'm the same in a lot of ways,
sure.
but
you're motivated maybe by different things. I'm motivated
differently now, and so when I know that I can go into something with a heart and do it well and, know that, I think that's kind of where my motivation comes from, and a lot of things that I've carried with me over the years is really just my ethics and really that's what's it about. If you can carry that with you and do your job at the same time and not let others affect you, which also has been a challenge for me in the past. I'm not going to lie about that. And for others too. And at the end of the day, I think we're all going towards the same goal, which is to help people. Right? So yeah, I'm glad that I could come and hang with you today.
Thank you for being here. And I really appreciate ending kind of on that positive note because it's, it's sort of what I needed today. It's a nice reminder that this is the work that we choose to do every day. And it can be very hard, but it is very meaningful, especially when we can involve the families in the process and really think through it in a really holistic way.
Absolutely.
I hope people listening never need you, but they probably will. And if you're looking for a really great treatment center that has a lot of experience, then if you call us, we would suggest checking out Sauna Lake. So
thank you, Nicole. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you, Angela. If you liked this conversation, if you want more of this, please consider rating, reviewing, or subscribing. That's really cool because then every time we have a new episode, it comes straight to you and you don't even have to do anything. Really appreciate you, Angela.
Yep,
Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us at The PrevenTable, brought to you ad-free by Prevent+Ed. Prevent+Ed works to reduce or prevent the harms of alcohol and other drug use through education, intervention, and advocacy. Please visit their website at PreventEd.org. Like what you heard? Rate, review, and subscribe to stay up to date with what we are serving on the PrevenTable.